security matters.
I'm out of breath.
Cellophane. 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 Come on, let's go.
It's 5 o'clock in the morning. Each day I have to be ready to march as soon as it's light enough to walk. If we're going to succeed, Seraphin and I will need to walk at least 20 kilometres a day. Australia is the world's driest continent, and to survive, I must drink at least 4 litres of water a day. Finding water is hard enough, but a lot of it has salt in it, and desalinating is slow. It takes me over 4 hours to desalinate my daily supply.
At the moment, I've got a bit of a water crisis happening, meaning I'm almost out. The reason being is I've been getting my water from the salty creeks, or the creeks that flow into the lake, and the pools, I've been desalinating that. Now, the last couple of creeks I've come to, there hasn't been any. So we'll see how I go. Well, I tell you what, it's absolutely hammering down now. It's rained an enormous amount since it started last night. And last night, in about 2.5 hours, I filled all my containers. So I've just got to make the most of it. I've got a few repairs to do, and I'll do those. I'll write up my journal, I'll study my maps, and contemplate life, the universe, and everything. I think that's what I'll do anyway. I might change my mind. You coming up? What do you reckon, Seraphin? Hey? This is probably going about as fast as we are. Don't you think? Maybe we should see if we can get a ride in this. What do you think? I think it's about day 28 of the trip, and 9 of them have been forced rest days. I'll go easy on the stores I've carried because I've only got so many of them. I'll probably go out, see if I can get myself a rabbit or something a bit later if it stops raining. But I think the most important thing on days like this is to keep things in perspective and not get into a negative spiral of thoughts. And I've been here for 3 days, believe it or not. The sun's come out today, which is good. It rained a lot. Again, the lake itself has been incredible since the rain stopped, and I've actually been able to sort of see it. It's been quite unusual to watch this incredibly shallow inland sea appear and then slowly disappear in the case of a couple of days. But anyway, it's been a treat. It's quite an exciting time for me. We're finally free of this lake. It's been a friend, it's been a foe. I've cursed it, I've loved it, I've admired it. I've certainly enjoyed it. Now it's at an end and a new stage of the trip begins, so off I go. Well, I really am quite excited here at the moment because I got some bulrush, which is this nice, crispy, juicy, fresh greens, which I haven't had yet. I've had plenty of greens, but I've had basically second quality greens. Enough to ward off scurvy, which is the main thing, but it's great to have some higher quality tucker for a change. It's taken me an hour to get about 150 metres crossing this Salt Creek, which has just been absolutely desperate. I'm almost out of it now, but I think there could be a sting in the tail. Well, welcome to the Gibber country. Red and stony and very beautiful. I like it a lot out here. I've had a bit of a problem every time I get to a bit of a creek. I'm still getting bogged. So I'm thinking of climbing up onto a plateau up to my left a bit and trying it up there. I suspect it's very dry up on top, but obviously it means climbing up about 60, 70 metres up quite a steep slope to do that. So we'll see how I go. Good dog.
I have a tremendously powerful feeling of being alone. I wouldn't call it loneliness, but an incredible sense of being very, very much alone. To have water and to have food and to have shelter and to have companionship are very much taken for granted. And yet they're the most important things in our lives, in all of our lives, every day. And yet they're simply overlooked. Unless, of course, you're in a situation where you haven't got those things.
So this is the dingo fence. World's longest fence. Just another obstacle, really, for me.
The fence is designed to keep the wild dogs out of the farming lands in the south. Once I cross the fence, I'll be in dingo territory.
Come on, Terrapin, come on.
It was pretty isolated where he come through, so it was a little bit emotional when we did meet. It was, I give him a hug and he was pleased to hug me.
We were the first people that he'd seen in 37 days, so he was pretty pleased to talk English to somebody. Yeah.
He was self-sufficient. He said he was right. He walked back down the creek and looked after himself, and we went down and had a yarn to him that night, and I think again the next day, but no, he looked after himself, so he didn't take any hospitality from us.
Yeah, it's a pretty mean feat, and he's going to have a few tough days in front of him. Yeah.
It's always difficult speaking with somebody on a long journey, particularly a long solo journey. You build this little world around yourself in this shell, and you operate within it, and you're comfortable and strong within that. And suddenly having to confront people and communicate with them can break into that shell and weaken it. And so it's best to move on as quickly as possible.
I tell you what, this should have a few stories to tell. Looks like it's done a bit of work. Old grindstone, broken in two there. Probably single most important tool of the Aboriginal culture, I suspect, used for grinding seeds. And always where there's a grindstone, you'll find what was used against it. Makes me feel good knowing that people have been here before, people lived here for countless generations and thrived here indeed. And I might be the only person out here today, but I've got that history behind me.
Surfing knows there's rabbits in this warren. She can smell them. She may have seen them run into it, but she knows it's an active warren and there are rabbits down there.
This is a native pear, which I really like a lot actually, and I'll add that to my rabbit tonight and have a bit of rice with it, and I reckon it'll be pretty damn good. I've been playing this game of dare with these clay pans and this water. How little water do I dare carry? Things are drying out pretty quickly, and I obviously don't want to get caught out. I'm confident I'll find something more than these tiny little depressions from camel pads. And that's what's holding the water. Anyway.
It's something that 99.99% of people just couldn't do, let alone wouldn't contemplate. just unaided like that and having to live off the land completely, it's quite huge. You know, talking about having to eat feral cat, etc. And termites. Most people just wouldn't appreciate. Guys out here when their motorbike breaks down and they have to walk 20k back to the homestead. That's that's a pretty mean feat, let alone walking from one end to the other.
You know, it's pretty amazing out here. Day after day, week after week, just moving slowly across this ancient landscape. Incredibly powerful stuff, experience. Really. This is the real world out here. There's trees and plants and sand and water and rain and mud, rocks, life.
Good girl.
Well, I had been going to carry her across, but I guess she couldn't wait.
Well, I've just got across the river yesterday and moved up a couple of kilometres, and today it's raining. So I guess it's a bit of a race against time as to whether I can get to the more sandy country of the desert before this rain makes the ground just simply impossible to move over. But so I'm going to stop talking to you and get going. Well, I'm afraid that was a race I lost. It's raining heavier. I got about 200 metres, and it was a real struggle just to do that, in fact. And you know, the wheels are clogged up, the ground is incredibly heavy, and I'll just have to sit it out. It's about day 68 now, or so. So I've been out for a long time, and I'm really struggling here. I keep coming across these little creeks here, and they're very beautiful little things, but they're incredibly soft mud. I've got to unload absolutely everything off the cruiser. Get the car to cross, it takes forever. And look, I've got to say, for the first time on the trip, I've got serious doubts about my ability to complete this journey. For a hardcore optimist, I guess I'm feeling slightly pessimistic. I'm drained. And I basically decided I'm going to have a couple of days off, 2 days off, 3 nights here. Now, hopefully that's going to fix me up. Nevertheless, I'm just feeling a bit worn out, actually, and I just need the rest.
Sit up in. Let's go.
We just went over to check the river and come back back across the saddle and we seen someone walking. Like, we sort of surprised us. Didn't expect to see anyone out there. We was on the motorbikes. Then, like, we had radio and the chopper pilot was flying around and he heard us talking about it, so he had to come across and check it out. He couldn't believe it either. He was sort of happy. Like, he was talking up loud, like he was just anxious to see us. Like, oh, well, probably first time I've seen play for a little while.
Well, look here. I might be in luck. Bloated bovine. You dead? Smells good. I've heard bloated bovines pretty good, as long as it's not too old. Too smelly, well, it's a bit smelly, but the meat smells okay, and so I'll give it a go. See what I reckon. Well, that's the best steak I've had in a few months anyway. Does taste a little bit odd, but I don't think there's anything wrong with it. Not for my stomach anyway. What is it? Danger? Huh? Tiger? Lion? A rat? Sounds scary. I'm not going out there. Shut up, Ian. Shut up.
I have a tremendous sense of responsibility to my partners on any expedition, and Seraphin is no exception to this. I urinate on my cart every day. This helps to keep the dingoes away when I'm off hunting or sleeping at night time. The dingoes typically kept their distance, but one night they came too close for comfort. Seraphin and I were surrounded by 5 aggressive dingoes. As a last resort, I shot the alpha male. The others ran away.
So this is Annandale Station, or what's left of it. Time has a way of making our efforts turn to dust, but I'm not sure when it was last farmed. I'm almost halfway. I got about 60 kilometres before I reach the halfway point, so we'll see.
Walking around ruins like this gives me a sort of a haunted feeling. It's a nice haunted feeling, but it does remind me that we're just shadows on the wasteland and passing ever so briefly through time and space.
I'm really feeling it today. I don't know what it is. I guess some days are like that. It's hot, there's no wind, flies are bad. I kind of enjoy the struggle when it's a bit grim, you know.
It's strange to look at these pictures. They feel like pictures from another planet almost, but they are my family and loved ones. I always carry this photograph of my grandfather on my expeditions. He survived 4 years in the trenches on the Western Front in World War I, and it gives me strength and helps me deal with my own problems, which by comparison to that always feel rather small.
Oh, my favourite. Roast lizard. Yum. Body's doing well, you know. But every now and again, it needs a few repairs, maintenance. I got this saw down here. It's actually chafing from the harness.
More than ever before in the past, more than on any other journeys I've made, I feel like I've really become one with the landscape. I'm just another animal out here like all the others, and I'm just another simple creature living out here, finding food, finding water, making shelter. And look, at the end of the day, I'm leaving a set of tracks in the sand, and the wind's just going to blow them out tomorrow.
So I've just arrived at Roxburgh Down Station on the Georgina. And what I'm going to do here is abandon the cruiser and just continue the last 650 kilometres through to Bourketown, just carrying the pack. But I've got to go through all my stuff and weed out anything I don't need because that pack's going to be heavy. Nevertheless, I should be able to move quicker with the pack than with the cruiser, and given I've only got 650 kilometres to go, I might as well leave it behind now. Well, I just finished my first day with the pack without the cruiser, and I'm really shattered actually. Muscles aren't used to the exercise. I'm fed, I'm hauling fit, but as for carrying a heavy pack, especially a bloody uncomfortable one, it's not a pretty sight, is it?
Good dog, good dog.
I discovered that I'd lost my sleeping bag. It must have fallen off my pack during the day. The temperature was below zero.
Good dog. Good dog.
I tried to keep warm like the Aborigines by sleeping between two fires, but the fires burned down too quickly. There was no choice but to walk 70 kilometres back to the cart to get my spare sleeping bag.
Serafin, let's go, let's go. We're a bit prepared for John coming because one of our neighbours, or a couple of stations down, actually rang us up and said there was a madman walking around with a gun. And so it was the time of the British backpacker went missing over in the Northern Territory, and we put the wind up us a bit, and we're sort of a bit ready for John coming, yeah. But once we saw him and that, and you could see he was professional and had all the right gear and stuff, and you knew, that he wasn't a madman. We offered him a few things, but he wouldn't take us up on anything. He wouldn't grab a mandarin off the tree, he wouldn't have a glass of cordial or anything. Yeah, he kept going.
Well, I got my first pig today, which is good, but I paid quite a price for it. I'm running low on bullets, basically, and I didn't quite kill it with a bullet, so I finished it off clubbing it to death with my gun, and broke my gun. We had a really hard time of it yesterday and last night, actually. It was probably the hottest day of the trip so far. I really don't know what it was, but it was hot and there was no wind. And Serafin started struggling in the mid-afternoon. Well, I was struggling as well, but Serafin was really starting to pant and then just sat down and refused to budge, so I realised, it's too hot.
We were almost out of water and had no alternative but to walk in the cool of the night to try and find some. Eventually we found it 40 kilometres away.
not bad, not bad. So I've been moving slowly and my stores are depleting rapidly and I've got hundreds of kilometres yet to march. And I tell you, sometimes I just wonder, I don't know, I guess optimistically the hunting will be good and I'll be able to restore my powers a bit. So that's really what I'm hoping is going to happen, because if it doesn't, I think I'm just going to kind of run out of food and peter out. Well, we descended off the plateau this morning and we got to this ruin of a station, old Moorstone station. And shortly after arrival, Seraphine started foaming at the mouth and then started fitting, and shortly after died. I'm pretty certain she took a poison bait. They lay them for dingoes. I'm feeling at a bit of a loose end. I don't know. I just feeling shattered, actually.
There was a note under the door, and I had a look where his track went through the gate, and then I went down the river and caught him up down the river. I said to him, I said, "Have you got a radio on you?" And he said, "No." And I said, "You got nothing at all?" He said, "No." I said, "Did you hear about the aeroplanes flying into the buildings in America and blowing the buildings up?" And he said, "No." No, he said, "I didn't hear about that." Yeah, I said, "Well, you must be the only man in the world that has never heard about this." And I'd say he would have been the only man in the world that hadn't heard about it.
I've never been so worn out on a trip before. I stop for a break and fall asleep. I feel like I'm approaching the limits of my endurance for the first time in my life.
John Muir this morning completed the first solo and unassisted crossing of Australia on foot, and he now joins us on the phone from Bourketown. John, congratulations and good morning to you.
Thank you very much. Good morning to you.
Adventurer John Muir today arrived in Bourketown, successfully completing his 4,500 kilometres. Today he staggered into Bourketown after a
Muir
journey
lost over 25 kilograms on his
days.
crossing, but won himself the title of Adventurer of the Year.
2,500 kilometres later, he's staggered into the studio. Say hello to Mr. John Muir.
Arriving in Bourketown was actually quite anticlimactic. The rewards of the journey came with each day that went by, and they weren't waiting in one big package at the end at all. The past 128 days have been the most incredible of my life. They've been so intense and so full of so many powerful emotions, it's hard to get a handle on them all. I feel I've left a part of me out there. Part of my soul is still out there in that wilderness, in that desert country. I'm feeling numb more than anything, just a bit numb.
I mean, who in their right mind would do this?